as well. So starting the recording. Oh, you also have load shedding tomorrow. Oh, this load shedding. It was so great. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Monday and Tuesday we never had, but I'm assuming that's because of all the potential rioting. So suddenly we were just fine without load shedding. But yes. Anyway, no, that's no problem. I'm just going to leave my camera on for a little bit. I just feel sure otherwise we just speaking into the void here. What I actually was thinking of doing, I don't know if you if any of you use Bitmoji, but I think it's called Bitmoji. It's an app on your phone, and you create like a little cartoon face or character of kind of what you look like. And I was thinking maybe if you wanted to, you could WhatsApp that to me, and I could kind of put a collage together of all our little Bitmojis as our class photo or something. I don't know. Oh, were you in Diana's class? Okay, now yes. So we have a new online tutor for APPE because this group was actually really large. Avatars, yeah, that's also an idea, Moshe. That's also an idea. So maybe we can play around with something there and get a a class photo. Yes, so Diana Robertson, she is the program manager for School of Ed on the MSA campus, and she is now also an OT for this module. And I know that they've moved some of the group over to her. I'm not too sure how that worked or how they did it, but yeah, there goes our lights. I'm still on, right? Great. Okay, so let's get started then. I'm just going to switch off my camera for now. So tonight is going to be very interactive. I'm going to be posing a lot of questions. And as I mentioned also in the recording of last week, that we're going to Yes, yes. Leanne, not boring, not boring at all. Please, can you just remind me if I do forget? I have got it noted down here, but I sometimes get very carried away, and then when I go offline, I think, oh, sure, but I wanted to say that and that and that. So yes, please remind me, and don't feel bad to remind me to raise these things. So as I said, tonight's going to be a little bit more interactive because you've now engaged with the two philosophies of idealism and realism. You've had a look a bit at the three classical philosophers of Socrates and Plato, Aristotle. So tonight I thought we could just have a bit of an interaction with regards to the practical implication or practical application of iStock seems a lot. No, it's not a lot. It's just a little paragraph, but we'll get it. We'll discuss it at the end, I promise. A little bit about about practical application or of idealism and realism in a classroom and specifically in the South African context. So just a really quick recap of philosophy in general, and I know we mentioned this in our first week, is that the four pillars, no problem, no problem. But this is being recorded, and I will upload it onto the YouTube channel as well. So don't worry if you're losing your network or your connection. Is that philosophy rests on four major pillars, and that is axiology, which is your ethics and morals and principles, and then obviously epistemology, which is how we know what we know, metaphysics, which has to do with truth and reality, and then logic. So those are the four main pillars of philosophy. And in education, we're focusing obviously on epistemology, which is how we know what we know. So the two classical philosophies that we're going to look at, idealism and realism, although formulated and thought out a very long time ago, not so completely off track if we really have a look at our education today. So I'm going to pose this question out to you, and if you look at the tools on top, and I know you've done this before, but you can use the pen, the drawing tool, and I'd like you all of you to just write something on the blank screen as to how should I pose this question? What does idealism look like in a classroom or in a lecture room? So just just your thought. It doesn't have to be, a whole paragraph, can be a sentence or a phrase, but in your mind and after what you've read and engaged with some of the articles and the course, what do you think idealism looks like in a classroom? Yes, a perfect setting. You're quite right. Right. Teacher's a perfect role model. Yes, there's a huge pressure on the teacher to be the perfect role model. Purest way of doing something. Idealism advocates emphasis on physical health. Yes, yeah, definitely physical, kind of all of it, spiritual, moral, but yeah, pretty much more about the character of the child as opposed to imparting knowledge. Any more ideas, phrases? Building character, yes. Idealism is that's their core, is building the student's character. Believing that the teacher is correct, absolutely. The teacher is the knowing of everything. Um, Child to adult, full mental, moral, and cultural uplift, yes. Right, we've got teacher centered, definitely teacher centered. Questioning, lots of questioning. Yeah, it's all those Socratic questioning and guided questioning and all of that. A lot of questioning, um, lots of belief, hope. Yes, definitely, definitely. Leading you to a purpose, focuses on what it should be. These are all correct. Okay, so well done. These are all correct. Your idealist classroom is definitely not so much reality based as what it is based on ideas, purpose, the perfection of things, creating character. Um, so yeah, none of these are incorrect. Though you've definitely got an idea of what an idealist classroom would look like. Um, if we go back to those two questioning methods that we discussed last week, the Socratic and the guided questioning. There was another word for it, which I not just left my mind as I said, Socratic method. But anyway, if you think about those questioning methods or questioning, um, uh, yeah, questioning techniques, what give if can any of you give me a practical example of either you've used it yourself in a lecture room or um, you've you've kind of been engaged with the Socratic or a dialectic questioning kind of situation. Remember, the Socratic questioning is more about not leading or guiding your student anywhere, literally just getting them to unpack what they are saying, just reflecting and unpacking exactly what they're saying. Whereas the dialectic method is more about um, it's more like a debate, having two opposing arguments or two opposing sides and yeah, debating it out. So can any one of you give me a practical example? Yes, tomorrow says open forums, um, group work, definitely. Um, Socratic method uses students and teacher discussion. Yes. Can you give me a real example, um, like a practical thing that's happened in a lecture room? anybody. Like, just give me an idea of a question that was asked or something that was said. Mind mapping is a good one. Yes. Yes, Leanne, exactly that. So if a question is posed to students and somebody says X, Y, Z, it actually doesn't really matter what they say, but you just ask them why. Why did they say that? And it's actually quite fascinating how it really stops a person in their tracks, and they really have to then think about why did they say that. And then once they've given you the reason, you could say, is there another way of thinking or saying or answering this? Yeah, it's actually really quite enriching. And it doesn't even have to be a complicated, highly philosophical question. It can just be something really simple. It is thought-provoking into action. You're quite right. And um, it's it it doesn't have to be clever, if you know what I mean. It's just you're just saying why. Can you think of other methods? Um, Statement. We were asked about Brexit and the thought on it in 2015 in Bear Class, and then Brexit happened. Okay. And tomorrow, can you give me like what was the kind of question that was posed? So there were statements, and then what were the questions?
Hi, Dr. Sen. I thought I'd rather put my mic on. So we actually had quite a bit of sessions back and forth, and obviously because in that background the Brexit plan was already happening, obviously. So what happened was there was statements like, okay, do we think that there's going to be, for example, at that end, they didn't know if there was going to be a divide between, will you get a visa, would you get approved between Britain or London versus your other European countries? Would the exchange rate be different? Would they be using the euros versus the pound? Would the pound still be allowed? So it was a whole lot of thought-provoking questions because I mean, no one ever thought that was probably possible.
Going to
Um,
happen, yeah.
yeah, and then what was so funny because we even had an exam question about it afterwards, and who would have thought? Because it's again your perspective or your narrative on the the information that we were obviously given. But I mean, I don't know from a point of view. Well, obviously there was already talk of it happening, but then I mean, what 3 4 years later it actually happened,
Actually
and
happened,
everything
yeah.
that was then response, the pound was only left for Britain. Everyone now needs a visa from the other European countries. So it was quite canny though, because you don't think it can happen, and it actually did. So that
That's
was
right.
quite
And no, sorry, I'm
different.
interrupting you. No, carry on.
No, no,
Yes,
no,
and
go ahead.
exactly the fact it got you to think about something that you hadn't experienced and that wasn't
Yes,
necessarily real yet. So, and that
yes.
is exactly what it's about. Leanne says that it's you ask, yes, you're asking people to think about their prejudices. And what I find so amazing about that is we have so many blind spots. We actually don't even realize them until we are questioned. Frank says, yes, exactly. What I'm doing now is I'm replaying the questions back, asking you why, and to give like specific, yeah, just specific examples. George says Socratic answers. I'm assuming that's what you wanted to say. Ideas and the reflection on it. Yes, the reflection plays a big role in idealism and in particular in the Socratic method because you are assert, okay, because you are you in your mind have got maybe a realistic or an idea, as Tamara gave her example of something of Brexit that hadn't actually really happened. So unpacking that for the students at that time gave them almost like concrete, not maybe concrete ideas, but something they could relate to. Um, and it's really, I don't know if you've tried it, if those of you who are lecturers, but I'm going to kind of challenge you to try it in your next lecture. And as I said, it doesn't have to be an intelligent statement or clever questioning. The more you do it, the more you know what kind of questions to ask. But initially, you just kind of start off with, why, or why do you think that, or why does this work for you, or why are you saying what you're saying? What else could you assume, or give an example, or an alternative? So yeah, or sometimes what I just say to students, if they say something, I just ask them, so what are you implying? I know sometimes they think that I'm trying to catch them out, or that they think they're wrong. And it's very important for them to realize or to understand that they're not wrong. There's no wrong or right. It's just, have you thought about what you've said? I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but have you thought about it? Taryn says her lecturer always used to do this in class, and she just wanted to see if we actually knew exactly that. Because sometimes, and I think maybe it's more so my generation, but we we kind of raised in this robotic rote learning kind of model of teaching, and so you learn answers to questions, but you don't actually really think about what you're saying. So yeah, that is really the Socratic and the dialectic questioning method. It's really effective. If you now think about idealism in your classroom, and we've now had a look at what it really means, and unpacking it, what would you think would be the disadvantages? So if I was a teacher who operated mostly in the philosophy of idealism, what would be the disadvantage in my lecture room? Yeah, yes, stress factor on the teacher side. You're quite right, because you're supposed to know it all, kind of thing, and have all the answers. So yes, imagine planning this kind of lesson where you just have to be prepared for wherever your students go. Um, the question, disadvantage of idealism. Yes, that was the question. Is that what you're asking, George? So yeah, what wouldn't really work? What would be difficult? The question was. Yes, I suppose at the end of the day, you get so spiraled down, you actually forget about where did you start or where did you want to go. Practical application, it is difficult, Frank. It is difficult, because you're so focused on the idealistic kind of like theories and things, you kind of lose track of reality, I think. Um, yes, there is no hard and fast right or wrong. The current system, yes, unfortunately, the current system, it's very difficult to be this idealistic kind of like person, lecturer, teacher. Eve says confusion. I think it could be. I think especially in the beginning. Um, OCD with that. Yeah, I must say it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Anxiety would definitely be the thing, Taran, because we are so focused on getting the answers right, and achieving, and our students are still very much in that kind of like way of thinking, and it would cause a lot of anxiety. I think also another matter says moral said there might be moral decay. Um, well, there, there, moral decay. There could be, but it could, on the flip side of that, you could actually, I think, instill more morals, because it's so character based, and because you're trying to get the student to really understand why they say what they're saying. What do they actually believe in? So, yeah, the religious of the middle way. Yes. I think it will also depend on if the lecturer, what perspective they're coming from, and are they trying to steer or guide the student down any particular path. I suppose that could definitely be a problem. Um, Yes, Frank, good one. If the lecturer is wrong, then the students are going to end up wrong, because you are going down a path kind of where you want your students to go. The thing with idealism, though, is it's a lot of self-discovery. And I think one of the biggest things, besides the fact that they kind of lose track of reality sometimes, is that there's a chance that the students don't actually get where you want them to be, or they don't actually discover what you want them to discover. So you allow your own thoughts to prosper. Yeah, that is one big danger of idealism, is you're just so focused on what's going on in your mind and the ideal world and perfection and etc. etc. Frank, you're quite right. Yeah, you're quite right. That's how people get brainwashed. So no, well done. These are good answers and good, again, no right or wrong. Just unpacking your thinking, your thoughts, to understand idealism a bit better. Okay, so then we're going to move on to realism. And again, if you want to just pop on the screen one or two, three words, a phrase of what the realist class would look like. Yes, very practical. Realist class is your math. Yeah, that is your maths class. Practical examples, experiments. Yeah, straight to the point. Exactly. What is the reality of what is going on? Very classroom structured, or your classroom would be very structured. Yeah, I accept what I see. Exactly. Functional, most definitely. Empirical proof, self-discipline. These are all 100% correct of your realist classroom. So, where idealism would be focusing on the character of the student and what's behind your thought processing, the realist classroom would be hands on, practical. This is what it is. Economics, yes, very realistic. This is what it is. This is what you have to know. This is, yeah, these are the facts. This is how we're going to prove them, etc., etc. So, um, opposite to idealism. And Aristotle was definitely the realist of the three classical philosophers. He definitely, yeah, he wanted empirical facts and truths. Everybody. George says, what are the universals that the realists need to acknowledge that? What are the universals? Are you making a statement, George? Or are you asking a question? Are you asking what are the universals? Or are you saying that the realists have to acknowledge certain universals? Okay, so it's a question. What does everyone else think? So George is asking, what are the universals that a realist needs to acknowledge? We've got some more things popping up. Examples supporting theory. I zoned at universals. Realists must leave out emotion and imagination. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you're quite right. What's going on in your mind does not feature for a realist. Reality exists purely because you can experience it with your senses, not because you can think about it. Yes, nothing is constant. Um, the universal truths focus on the facts. And I think somebody else said maths and your sciences, economics. Well, I suppose economics could be a bit idealistic, I suppose, at sometimes. But yeah, those are. Do you think that you could coexist these two philosophies within one? Um, yes, Leanne, good one. Astrology. Yes, I love that analogy. Astrology versus astronomy. Um, I suppose that's a good analogy for the dichotomy between the two. Tamara says yes, absolutely, and I think both have their place, and you could definitely engage in both philosophies within one classroom. And I think it's easy. Um, in what was I going to say? I think it's easy. Okay, I'm not sure what I was going to say. I'm busy reading the comments. I think it's easy to yes, so that's what I'll say. I think it's easy to come up with examples of realism in your classroom. I think that's a whole lot easier than idealism. But I'm definitely going to challenge you, to those of you who lecture, to bring in a bit of idealism in your classroom, even if you just do in the first 5 or 10 minutes. Almost like you do at school. Used to do these maths. Little maths exercises. What do they call it? 5-minute maths or something at the start of every maths lesson, just to kind of get your brain engaged in a mathematical way of thinking. It would be good to actually start your lectures like this, and you just throw something at them. Take your topic, whatever your topic is going to be, and just come up with a random statement. It doesn't even have to be a true statement. Just come up, like Tamara gave us the example of Brexit. Just come up with something random, and just say, so, what do you think of this? And as they start making their statements, you can help them to think about, how did they get to that? Why is it that is what they believe? Okay. Any more comments on idealism and realism? Sort of like general in the classroom. It's not too complicated. Next week, when we start looking at more further classical philosophies like pragmatism and existentialism, then it gets a little bit more exciting. Oh yes, we were talking about the universals, George. You asked that question. Short version. What is George? Are you quite a cryptic kind of person, or is it just a generation gap here? Because um, no, Mike. Oh, okay. All right, I got it. You have a new keyboard. Anybody like to give a shot at George's question? What for the realist would be universal truths? Anybody like to yeah, no right or wrong here. Just what do you think would they would be? I think therefore I am. I like that. Facts. Definitely all the facts. Yeah. But what maybe I must rephrase the question. Or George, maybe you want to rephrase your question. For the realist, truth would be probably subjective. Um, yes. Praveen, I want to say maybe, maybe more objective. My opinion would be. Um, George, I don't get universals. I zoned out there. Okay, so Leanne, I like your question back to George. What are your universal truths? I just want to go back to Praveen. She's making a statement that for the realist, truth would be probably subjective and not universal. What do the rest of you think about that? Do you think truths for the realist are subjective or objective? Yeah, I tend to go with Frank there. I think that for a realist, your truth would be objective, because it would be something that can be universally proved. Sensitivity based on facts. Yeah, the Earth revolving around the sun is universal truth. Um, yeah, I think maybe the idealist would be your subjective truths. Sorry, it's pouring outside, and now my dogs have decided they have to come in here. This is not normally they're not normally allowed in here. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Anything else? Ideal is subjective. Yes. I'm kind of tending to lean towards that as well. But again, in philosophy, as long as you can, come up with a philosophical viewpoint to support you, or a something to motivate your answer logically, there's really no wrong or right. No wrong or right. Okay, let's move on to I want to pose a question. If we think about Plato and we think about his okay, Melissa says since the ideals could be more personal, person leans more subjectivity. Yeah, no, Melissa, I tend to agree with you there. Um, and if we think about Plato, who was an idealist, and we think about his okay, he had this whole dialectic kind of like questioning where you would get into not a debate, but like, yeah, a debate, I suppose, discussing different opposing sides or whatever of the same topic. And you think about Generation Z, who are, I'm assuming, in your lecture rooms, those of you who are lecturing. How would you how would Plato's view of education, or actually any of the three classical philosophers at this in this instant, Socrates or Plato or Aristotle, how would their view, or their view, let me use the word view, how would their view of education fit in with today's Generation Z? Yes, you're quite right. Generation Z are definitely a whole lot more flexible and resilient and open to change and to newness than I think any other generation before them. Their views do differ, and they don't, and as Taranel said, they're not static. They're incredibly flexible and resilient. Um, oh, yes. Leanne, good point. Very good point. He strives towards excellence. You're quite right. But Generation Z, yeah, they, I think they believe their excellence has already arrived for them. They just need to go out and kind of like work it. Um, but I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Generation Z are a lot more, they don't come into a career thinking they're going to come in at the bottom. They just want to come in at the top. Um, yeah, no, that's a good point. Anything else about Generation Z that you guys kind of have picked up in your lecture rooms? And um, George, general properties that cannot be observed directly. I'm just wondering if George is on the same planet as what we are. Um, George? Okay. George, I think you need to replace your keyboard. Yes, they do love to try new things. Yeah, he's definitely moved beyond universals. I don't know what planet George is on at the moment. They live in a digital bubble, but they're very functional in their digital bubble, don't you think? They are incredibly, wow. I don't know. Yeah, I just watch them in class, how they multitask. And yes, you're quite right. They have very strong opinions. They look for results and they want them immediately. They don't want to work for them. They don't want to commit long term. They want results now. They've put in the effort now. They want the results now. What do you think about the fact that 99% of their socializing is done online? How do you think that affects their lecture room experience? Melissa, you're right. They are very well informed. I mean, yeah, they teach me a lot. They do lack social skills. So, okay, but here's the question. How do I pose this question? Hmm, why do we feel it necessary to point that out? I don't know if that question is making sense. So, um, miss the beat. Yeah. Frank, yes, they do. They they spell. I know. I've given up. I've really given up. And there was a time where I used to sweat that stuff, and now it's like, you know what? They're going to be in careers that I don't even know, that don't exist, and I'm not going to be around to really whatever. If it works for them, it works for them. George says the digital experience. I was walking in the park and saw this stadium, 3 steps of youngers sitting looking at the iPads. Yeah, this is the thing. They sit next to each other, but they're still on their phones. Um, Borderline generation, yes. I mean, I don't know about the generation that you guys belong to, but I come from like baby boomers, and these are like 4 generations later, and it's really it's actually amazing how different we are. Um, Melissa says my field's a little difficult. International introverts do not drawn in terms of communicating online versus in person. They do. Yeah, I'm mom to 2 Gen Zers. They're incredibly sensitive to what is going on around. Yes, Leanne, that is a very good point. They are very motivated by social evils and justices and stuff like that. Yes, and they want a cause. They want to be involved in a cause. Um, Tomorrow says I see it in the medical field now. It's I was actually having this conversation with one of my colleagues the other day, and I said I almost feel that we need to restructure our timetable with in terms of Generation Z, and rather. I come and get back to that. Tomorrow says the young doctors coming in through a shocking the lack of knowledge. Yes, yes, and they just, I mean, I go to young doctors and I don't trust anything they say. I mean, they're Googling the same Google that I'm Googling, and they're giving me the information as if, yeah, they're 7, 8, 9 years of studying. Their attention spans much further than their studies. Oh, their attention spans are short. Goodness, that's what I was going to say now. We were discussing about we should do pop-up lectures. So these lectures that are 50 minutes or 2 hours long, it doesn't work for them. You've lost them after 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So we should have pop-up lectures. We should literally pop in with a 15, 20-minute blah, blah, blah. This is what, blah, blah, and leave. Leave. And then the next lecture must come in and do their next thing. Because really you stand there in a lecture room for 2 sessions, 2 hours, and you've really lost them after the first 10 minutes. Practical engagement, that was the other thing I was going to say. So if you think of idealism versus realism, I don't think idealism is going to work for a very long time with your Generation Z students. You could use it to get them engaged and thinking, but then you're going to have to move straight into the reality and the practical side of things. They love um, engaging with real stuff that's going to help in their career. TED Talk style, yes. Science behind the, yeah. Um, Getting them involved, getting in guest speakers, getting in anything where they are actually involved with real career stuff. George says that Gen Z will sit if it's a video about money. Yeah, yeah, they're so intelligent, and if they just get them put the intelligence to good use. Um, Getting them involved. Videos have been less effective in my experience in practical. Melissa, I have to say I agree with you. There was a stage where videos really worked, but now it's also, you know, what the heck? It's just another video. Um, what I actually do a lot now in my lecture with my students is I give them QR codes. So I put QR codes up in my whatever I use, Prezi or PowerPoint, whatever, and they have to scan it, and then that document will tell them what to do. They must either research something, or it's a quiz, or it's a poll, or it's I don't know, something where they have to engage and give me stuff on a Padlet. But I have to get them moving and using their phones all the time. And then I kind of feel I keep their attention. And short videos work somewhat at the risk of sounding like Gen Zero. What time Oh, we're ending it at 7. So we need Leanne, I love it. Okay, we're moving on. So that was my discussion about Gen Z. So, um, with 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 this all this AI and um, stuff, there's this new what do we literacy, that's new terminology that's come out called humanics, and basically people are saying that our students we need to focus more on humanics as opposed to content. So humanics meaning data literacy. What do we do with all the data that's out there? There's tons of data, and we know that they can Google anything at any time. Um, what to do with it, what to do with all this data, and then how to understand your machinery, your apps, etc., and then human literacy. How do we communicate? How do we, um, yeah, just creatively engage with the people around us? That they say is the new kind of like buzzword, humanics. It's yeah, getting if we can engage our students in that kind of focus on those three literacies, then they say we're preparing them for good global citizenship. Anyway, so I thought I'd just share that with you. Okay, so we need to get to the ICE task. Just before we do, is there anything? I think pretty much that's all I really wanted to. I was going to ask you who should control what we teach, but we can discuss that next week because we will come back to that. And then we've discussed the Socratic method and all that. To come back to the ICE task, anything before we discuss the ICE task? Any other comment or suggestion about idealism, realism? After tonight, I'm not going to come back to it. It's more, we're going to move now more into the little bit more exciting philosophies. So anything you want to add? Okay, is everybody good? Okay, so now you want to discuss your ICE task. So the ICE task is really, there are three articles that you need to read. I wonder if I could actually, no, yeah. I'm actually just wondering if I can't share my screen with you and then just quickly go through the ICE task with you. Let me just see if I can do this. So I want to take this off. Oh, goodness. Okay, let me just. Okay, let me try it this way around. Okay, let me select share screen. Can somebody just let me know if you can actually see my screen, but you're going to have to use your mic because I cannot see the chat now.
Yes, we can see it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. So more resources. Sorry, I can hear you guys are putting stuff in the chat, but I unfortunately won't be able to see it now. Okay, so here's your ICE task. So basically, there's this document by Fendler. Have you all been able to access it? Anybody who's not been able to access it?
Sorry,
Only
Doctor.
screen. We're not seeing the actual task itself now.
Oh, what can you see on the screen?
It says tertiary hub, and then it's just got all those almost like those icons for you to click on.
Oh, I've actually gone past that now. Why did it not catch up with me? Yeah, man.
Oh wait, there it is. There it is. It's
Okay,
caught
can
up.
you? Okay, great. I think
Yep, you're good.
this. Okay, great. So you can see ice task 1 with the red arrow.
Yeah, ball.
Okay. So basically, you are going to read the document by Fendler, but not the whole document because it's really complete and most of it's irrelevant. But page 6 and 7 is going to give you some guidelines as to how you can evaluate philosophical writing. It's not a major crisis if you don't read that document. I think, I think you can just wing this with just your own general knowledge. But you're basically going to go into this document that says this document, and there are 3 sample paragraphs. Those are the 3. There are 4, but you're not looking at the 4th one. You're only looking at the first 3. You're going to read all 3, and then you're going to choose one. So, for example, let's say you've read them and you decide to go with the eternal irrationality of reactive attitudes. Sounds scary. Anyway, and then you're going to analyze that based on these 6 criteria. So you're going to read the article and then say, how does this article demonstrate critical thinking? So in other words, the way it's been formulated, the way it's been written, does it actually engage the reader to think further than the actual article? Do you feel like kind of stopping and reflecting on something or trying to think? You understand what I'm saying about critical thinking? In other words, it's not just, it's there and it's the earth is round and the sun revolves around the earth or the earth rolls on the sun, whatever. It's opening up your mind to ask questions and to think critical about the article. That's the first thing. Again, let me just quickly say that this entire ICE task answer does not have to be more than, I don't know, I want to say a page, but if you feel a page is what, 250, 300 words, really, it doesn't, I'm not expecting, I don't want essays. I don't have time to read them. I just want to see that you've engaged with one of these samples and that you've thought about the article. So that's the first part. The second part, is it linked to any viewpoint? So can you say, yes, this is linked to the idealistic viewpoint? It's either going to be idealistic or realistic because those are the only 2 philosophies we've done. So, and then why do you say that? Why do you say it's linked to idealism or realism? Does it have a clear, unambiguous argument? In other words, because it's based on philosophy, because the whole thing is about philosophical writing, and the whole thing about philosophical writing is that you're able to look at things from both sides, and that whatever you're saying has one meaning. It's not like, so it's not like you're saying, gee, I can't even think of one example of an ambiguous statement. Oh goodness, no, it's too late on a Thursday evening. But the point is, there's no double meaning. There's no ulterior meaning. It's alternative, I should rather say. It is what it is. So it's clear and it's unambiguous. That's C. Then D shows that assertions are supported by evidence. So in other words, if it says, I've read these articles so long ago, I can't even think of something that it says. But if it says something like X, Y, and Z, is it supported by evidence? Is it saying, is it personal experience? Is it based on experimental, empirical evidence, etc., etc.? Does it acknowledge the complexity of philosophical issues? There you're just going to have to wing it because really complexity of philosophical issues could be anything. So you could just pick up something, a sentence or something in the article that you just feel warrants extra philosophical processing or thinking or re-questioning or unpacking or whatever. And then the last one, challenges assumptions. Is it pushing boundaries on something? Is it making statements or maybe making you think differently about something? So if you really think about the 6 criteria, it's all pretty much the same, but I think the core of this ICE task is really to see that you understand what philosophical writing is all about, and that so that when you start doing your assignments and your take-home tests, etc., that your writing kind of follows this kind of pattern. So, yeah, is this making sense? Okay, now I'm going to go back so I can see the chat. I hope I'm not going to lose this now. Chat. Yes, one size fits all, George. Oh, light bulbs going on. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so, and then I know it goes further to say you need to go to the discussion tool and you type up your answers. When you go to the discussion tool, I'm going to quickly see if it's going to let me do that. Oh, sorry, now I've got to go back here. If you go up to the top and you click on the red, on the heading above the red arrow, you'll see it comes up with 3 threads, which are the 3 different paragraphs that you had to read. And you're just going to select, oh, see, some people have already done it. Well done. You're going to select the one that you have chosen. Let's say we went for Socrates. Oh, we've got some people that have already done. So you're going to just type your response in here. You do not have to, I don't expect you to go and respond on somebody else's. If you have the time, it's really interesting to read everybody else's response, but I also know that your time is yeah, very limited. So I know that the actual ICE task, let me go back. The ICE tasks asks you to do that, but I'm not going to let that count against you if you have not commented on somebody else's answer. If that makes discussion, I should rather say discussion. Okay, let me go back to chat. All right. Any other questions regarding this ICE task? Sorry, Musha, yes, you have a question.
Evening, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for the explanation. It really assisted. Just looking at it with a blind eye, it was quite a lot, as I said earlier, but you did make it a bit easier. So I just want to clarify before, of course, that we end this. So we are choosing either sample 1, 2, or 3, and then we are answering points 3A all the way to 3F, and we are just submitting it on the thread. That's it.
Yes, that's it. That's all I expect from you. Just that.
Okay, so number 4, we
Just
are
that.
not doing number 4.
Where you have to select the paragraph that you no that that is basically what you're doing. So you're reading the 3 samples. Number 4, you're analyzing them first, but you choose the one that appeals to you the most or that you find the most interesting. Then number 4 says select the paragraph. That is selecting one of the samples, and then that you regard as the one that best adheres to the criterion step 3. And then number 5 says you're actually going to then discuss the criteria in number 3 based on the sample that you've chosen. Does that make sense? I know the way they've set this out is very clumsy.
Yeah, it
Basically,
makes
you're going
sense when you explain it, but other than that, it really doesn't. Like it feels like as if there's so much to do, but when you explain it, it's very less things that need to be done. You're basically just explaining points 3A to F using either one of the samples from above. That's straightforward.
exactly that, and you're going to type it up in the discussion tool. Exactly that. Yeah, that's really in a nutshell. I must say, when I first, or a few years ago, when we first started working at this ICE task, I do actually remember also having to read it a few times before I actually Yeah, kind of understood what they wanted. But yes, that's exactly what it is. Leanne, point 6 and 7. Okay, so point 6 is really you going in and choosing one of them on the thread where I just showed you now. So you went in and you selected one. And then you're going to type out the answers to the analytical questions in question 3, or the analytical 6 points in question 3. Number 7 is requiring you to look at somebody else's response and to comment on it, but I'm not going to expect you to do that. You're very welcome to go and read the others. Obviously, it's all there, but I'm not going to look at that as part of the ICE task requirement. So you choose one of those samples, you go into the discussion tool under the red arrow, you select the what sample you've chosen, and then you type up your justification of why you chose that sample using those 6 criteria analytical points on question number 3. That's it. With regards to referencing, please, yes, please, 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 you do need to reference in text as well as a reference list. Although this is discussion tool. They're going to wrap me over the knuckles if I say to you, don't worry to reference, but it is more of a discussion. No, let's just say no. Yeah. Let's leave out referencing for this one, obviously with your assignments, and the next ICE will definitely include referencing. I know you all know how to reference, you all postgrad, but let's make this just a discussion, as if you were in a lecture room and we were having a discussion about those paragraphs. Yes, yeah, it's your paragraph. And the one that you've chosen, you will obviously reference the person who wrote that. Yes, Leanne, thank you. we do need to do the right thing. Okay, anything else? Anything else? Is everybody okay are you all able to hear or listen the recording on the YouTube? I know there was a problem last week, on Thursday and Friday, I think, and then our IT people managed to sort that out for me. Okay, so that's good. It had something to do with the way that the videos were uploaded. Awesome. Awesome. So next week will again be a recording based on pragmatism, existentialism, etc. The week after that, unfortunately, is also going to be a recording, but it'll just be on the one theme. I forget now which one it is, but I might actually just upload both weeks' recordings into one, or I might just leave them separate. It might just make it a lot less confusing. Unfortunately, I'm not here the following week, so I'm not able to do a live collab, but so I will upload a recording on Thursday, next week Thursday, and then the one for the following week I will upload also either on Thursday or Friday, because I'm not gonna have any Wi-Fi internet access. So it'll be 2 recordings, and then the week after that we'll do a live collab and a live collab again. So we'll do 2 live collabs after one another. Terence says, I just have a question concerning the activities in the learning units. I saw on the marks that they've been given each activity 5 marks. So do we? No. No. Taryn, it's good to have a look at them, but unless I specifically use one of those activities in an ICE task, no, they don't. They don't count. I have in the past, now and again, I'll go in and I'll say do activity 1.2, whatever, and then it counts towards your ICE. But it really depends on where we're at and what we're doing. But no, you will not be. It will not count against you if you don't do any of those activities. Okay, Melissa says separate uploads. Okay, I will do that. It will make it easier. It will make it easier. Right. Last week we ended up in Di Robertson's class. Is it the recording? Is it the recording in a class? Okay, so last week she made use of my recording that I did last week because she only started last week. So I said to her she must then just use my recording. So I'm assuming that she will from this week start uploading her own. But if you're very welcome to go and listen to both. Actually, it might be a good idea if you have access to both. I'm not too sure. I think she also has a channel that she uploads her recordings onto. I actually, Frank, I need to get clarification as to how the split has been done, because I do not have a new list yet. So yeah, I need to actually get that sorted this week. My course page this evening, notice I was moved to another group with Dr. Robertson, but I've been in your class the past few weeks and want to know if I can please stay in your group. I have absolutely no problem with that. I think the reason why they split the groups is because I think there were like 70, and I think it's more a case of marking assignments and assessments. I would never get that done in 5 days. So I think that's why they called in. But let me make 100% sure, first of all, how the split has been done, and then how it's going to work from now on. I just know she started last week, Sham, and she was kind of just feeling her way around. So I just gave her my recording to use last week. But yeah, I think from this week, she's pretty much doing her own thing. Well, not her own thing, but with her own group. But I will make sure. I will make sure, and then I will post it on announcements how the split has worked. Awesome, guys. Any other anything? Absolute pleasure, and thank you all of you for joining tonight. I know it's rough. I know an hour at the end of the week is a major sacrifice, but thank you for your engagement. It really makes it so much more real when there are people out there and I hear your voices, and even if you just keep chatting in the chat, it's nice because I know you're engaging. Melissa, could you please post the date? She will be unavailable. Okay, so next week is the 30th. I will be uploading a recording. I am still here until the 30th, and then I'm away for a week from the 31st to the following Friday, the Friday of Easter. But the Thursday before that, the 6th, I think it is. I think it's the 6th, yes. I will upload another recording, and then after that, I will be available for 2 live collabs so that we can catch up. One of them, I actually think it's a collab for your assignment, which is due 26 April, 17 April, 26 April, no, 26 April, somewhere around there. But yeah, thank you all very much. 26 April, thank you, Melissa. I knew it was somewhere around April. You have an awesome evening, awesome weekend, and yep, don't hesitate to email me if you have any issues or problems or questions. Other than that, just go and have a glass of wine and think, just philosophize. Cheers, Werner. You see now Werner has a Bitmoji, so don't you all want to send me one? I'm going to quickly give you my cell phone number, and then if you can, WhatsApp it to me. And then I'd love to put a classroom photo together of Bitmojis. I think it'll look cool. Awesome. Have an awesome evening and goodbye, everyone. Have a glass of wine. I know that's what I do after a lecture. I'm on such a high after a live collab, and then I just need to go and chill. Enjoy, everyone. Cheers tomorrow. Cheers, Melissa. Thank you, you too. Cheers, George. George on your keyboard. We'll have to get your sound to work next week, George. Cheers, Praveen. Bye, Taryn. A day away. George, a day away. Uh-uh. Have a great you too. Thanks, Eve. Yeah, sure. Actually, let me stop the recording now. I always forget that part and then